Hey, good morning. Good afternoon, actually. Yeah, if you can do that with your original name, that would be fine. This is also fine. I have got another way to take up your attendance end of the session. So, no need to worry. I will take care of it, Aditya. We'll wait for 2 3 more minutes before everyone join in. Can you meanwhile just set up your on your machine? Can you open your VS Code and other things? I'll also start sharing my screen now. Yeah, please set up. I am also sharing my screen in a while. Yeah, let me know once my screen is visible to you all. Can you just put up something in chat window so I know my screen is visible? Thank you. So, so last time we spoke till what point? We understood the concept of state, right? Yeah, we spoke about this keyword last time. We have already spoken about this keyword, right? This is what we covered in last session. Because if I see the codes, they are till in the state part. I have done radio class with has a relationship, right? Now the next thing what we are going to do is we will start with the concept of static. We will start with the concept of static, and static is a modifier. Okay. Any more people joining in? Like, okay, so we have got this concept of static. Now static is a modifier. Yeah, you must have seen static is created when we are talking about what you can say main method, right? Static is one keyword which is very common when it comes to main. But what about the other places? Yeah, what about the other places? There are multiple places where main things are of nature static, and we will talk about it. So when it comes to static, there are three things, yeah, which you need to remember always. First, static can be a variable, static can be a method, static can be a block. There are three things. Static, you what all things can you mark as static? You can mark a variable as static, you can mark a method as static, and you can mark a block as static. Okay. So static is a modifier. What do you mean by modifier? Is there is a certain way of working, and by applying this modifier, the way in which they work slightly differs or slightly change, right? Modifying is obviously that, right? You're not creating a new element, but instead what you're doing, you're modifying. So modifier allows you to do what? There is certain way in which it works, and here what you're doing, you're just changing that way, correct? So three thumb rules or three things which you can just stick up to your mind, like, okay, whenever I say there is anything is of nature static, what happens is loaded when the class is loaded. Anything which is of nature static will always be loaded when the class is loaded. Second is they will have one copy for all the instances, and third is they can be accessed directly by using their class name. So three things. What are the three things? First, that there are two types of loads. When you do p is equal to new pen, that is basically the time in which your object is loaded in your class. So this is called as object load time. But before that, do you think so the class loads first and then the object? Do you agree that class loads first and then the object? When it comes to the load part, do we think so the class should be loading first and then the objects? Because until unless we don't have a class, we cannot have an object running through it, right? We cannot create an instance of that particular class for it. So for that reason, we have to have what? The class should be loading first, then the object should be loaded. So anything which is of nature static in your class will always get loaded when your class is getting loaded. So this is very important. Yeah. And then they have one copy for all the instances. We'll talk about that. Okay. So here, let's say I want to create a, yeah, I want to create an object counter. So exactly what happens is, let me, okay. Now when I say pen p, right? Okay. So when I say pen p semicolon, and when I do p is equal to new pen, what happened exactly behind the picture? See, at this time, your variable p points to null. Yeah, and then we say p is equal to new pen. This will be no longer null. It will be pointing to a memory allocation. This is clear, right? This is what we have been studying for last few days. How does the memory allocation works in Java? This part so far so good, right? But at the same time, what exactly happens is, now let's say your class pen had a variable, right? Int level. Okay, certain methods and so on. Let's say two, three methods also. Now when I create, yeah, now when I create the object implementation, what exactly happened here is I will, I want to show you now. Let's dive into the object orient in the memory allocation as well. So when you say, okay, let's say you create two objects, pen, just for notation, I put it in different colors. Let's say P1, comma, P2. Okay. Then you say P1 is equal to new pen. Also, P2 is equal to new pen. And at this time, if I check out the memory allocation, initially, both of them will be pointing to what? P1 and P2. Yeah. What will be their default values? Yes. What will be the default value for P1 and P2? Anyone? When it was just declared, what will be the P1 and P2 pointing to? Any specific term we use for it? Is there any specific term we use for it? Yeah. P1 and P2 both will be pointing to null, isn't it? Yes. Correct, Hari. It will be pointing to what? Null. And then what we do, when I do P1 is equal to new pen, it will be pointing to a memory allocation. That memory allocation should be looking like this now for me. Yeah, that memory allocation should be looking this like for me. And on other hand, when you switch to, when you create another object, it will be also pointing like what? It will be having its own memory allocation there. P2 should be having its own memory allocation. Now you tell me, P1 will have its own ink level? Yes, no? P1 should be having its own ink level. So the variable which was by the name of ink level is given specifically to this P1. Also, the ink level variable is given to my this variable as well. Is this making sense? This is how it should work, right? Don't you think so? This is how it should work. You have got ink level. You have got ink level here. Both of them should have their own ink levels. They are not common values, right? And then what happens? That there is a write method here, and there is also a copy of write method here. So whatever functionality, yeah, whatever functionality this write works. So for example, it will work accordingly here. Same way, it will work accordingly here on the ink level. So whatever I write on this pen will affect this ink level. Whatever I write on the on P1 will affect this ink level. Is this correct? This is how it should be, right? Yes, no, maybe something. This is how it should be in the ideal scenario. Yes. Now, what happens if I, so this is how normally when the object or implementations are done, the non-static variables are assigned the values for. These are basically the instance variables. These are the methods. You remember the instance variables, right? Instance variables are those variables which are declared outside the functions and constructors, correct? So these are the instance variables for me. But what if I ask you, I give you an option, I want to write a class which will do the object counting for me. So let's say I will quickly just try to write that class here for myself. I will say class object counter. It has an int count. Okay. And then I have public void increment count function. and then I say count plus plus, and also say system dot out dot println current count plus count. Okay, now you tell me one thing. If I want to create three objects, what is the procedure I'll follow here? I'll say somewhere in the main method, I will say object counter O1, O2, O3. I will instantiate these three objects. I'm going to instantiate these three objects. So here, what I had O1, O2, O3, right? Then I do what? I say O1 is equal to new object counter, O2 is equal to new object counter, O3 is equal to new object counter. Correct. I've got three different variables. And then I do what I call the methods. O1 dot increment count, O2 dot increment count, O3 dot increment count. Now you tell me, how will I, what will be the value of count after this third object? After I call O3 dot increment count, see this is how it was looking like. This is my function. So I'm incrementing the count value by 1, and then I'm printing that count. So you tell me, what will be the value of count after I run the third function? When I call O3 dot increment count, what do you think so will be the value of count? Will it be 3? Because I have called it for 3 times. Will it be 3? It should print 1, 2, 3, right? Should it print 1, 2, 3? Okay, Nikhil, then what it will print? We have got one no, one yes. Others, can anyone just help me out? Like what we have got? Will it print 1, 2, 3, or will it print something else? Okay, Nikhil, you say it will print 1, 1, 1. Okay, it's correct. But can you tell me, we can also focus on the reason why it will be printing 111. The reason of printing 111 here is, see, what exactly is happening. How about we'll just jump into this and do this practically as well. So here I'll create, okay, first let me create another folder. Let's call it as basics. Okay, now I will create another folder. Let us call it as static. I want to create a folder for my static programs. In my static, I create a Java file. Let us call it as object counter dot Java. Again, I'll get rid of this package part. And what exactly happens in my object counter is I'm going to write a variable int count. Then I'll say public void increment count. For the time I increment the count, I will say count plus plus, and then I'll say system dot out dot println current count plus count. So it will give me the what is the current count value. Correct. Okay, then I say object counter oc runner dot java file, and in my oc runner I write the main method, and in main method I am saying that I have got object counter oc1, oc2, oc3, correct? Then I say oc1 is equal to new object counter, same I do for oc2 and oc3, and then I call the function. So I'll say oc1 dot increment count, oc2 dot increment count, oc3 dot increment count, and after I have done with this, if I open my terminal, okay, I have to compile object counter first. So I'll say java c object counter dot java and java c oc runner dot java now, and it is saying cannot find. Have I made any mistake here? Okay. Yeah, this came into a package. Was the problem? Now it is ready to run. So I'll say object counter, not object counter, but OC runner. Current count is 111, right? I'm getting the current count as 111. Now the reason behind this is what? That if you see the memory allocation for object counter 1, 2, and 3, yeah. If you see the memory allocation for object counter 1, 2, and 3, so it was again all of them were pointing to what? Null, correct? All of them were pointing to what? Null. So I had three objects: OC1, OC2, OC3. All of them are pointing to null. All of them are pointing to null. Then you say OC1 is equal to new object counter. So you get the first object. Now once you get this first object, will you get your own copy of count? Will you get your own copy of count which is pointing to 0, right? And when you say increment count, this count becomes what? 1. This becomes 1. Same goes for OC2. Initially, you get your own count. You get your count value to be what? 0, and then you have got the increment count function, you call it here, it becomes 1. Same goes for oc3, where I have my own count value of 0. Then I have got the increment count function, I call this function, this 0 becomes 1. Are you understanding why are we getting 111 there? Are you understanding why we are getting idea? Because these are all instance variable, right? These are all instance variable, and if I want to create a common copy for all, I if I want to increment count for every object, do you think so I need a common copy rather than like rather than putting it there? I think we need the counter value somewhere here which is outside, correct? Which should be outside, for example somewhere like here. And then whenever the increment count is called, rather than calling the internal count, it should actually go and call this count, so it will become 1. Then when the other object called, this will become 2, and then when the other object called, this will become 3. This is what I have to do, and for doing this, the only way I can do this is by marking that variable as what? Static. We'll have to mark that variable as what? Static. So I go back to my object counter, and here I say when I mark anything of nature static, what happens? It will be now available at, yeah, it will be now be available for this level. So I go back and see. Now when I do compilation and run again, see this time the count value changed from 0, what, 111 to 123. Are we understanding this? Are we understanding this? So let me quickly Use my code share. Let's start with the static one. So I will post the codes for static here. First is my object counter. Are you understanding how the static works? Everyone, can I get a quick thumbs up? And then this is how we got the output here. Are we understanding, guys, how we work with static? Yeah. So these are the you have. I will post the link again in the chat window. This is our code share link. Please go here and check it out and try to run this code quickly. This is the output you should achieve. Yeah, let me know once you're done executing this one, so we can proceed ahead. So this one is like simple, right? You understood how just by adding a variable it became outside and it was no longer the part. So this is no longer the part of my internal object variable. It is become the class variable. Static variables are also considered to be the class variables. Okay. Can I continue or you want me to wait for you to complete this one? Okay. So the next part, what we are going to do is about static. See, we have done with static variables. We understood this scenario, right? How we create the count, and that count has to be shifted out. At the same time, I have not implemented it here, but we also have the concept of static methods. Why do we have static methods? Okay. We have got static methods there. Now, static methods are those methods, obviously, which are marked as static. Now, why do we need the static methods? Yeah. So, there is a simple rule: when overheads of declaring an object later instantiating to invoke a function is not justified. We make method of nature what? Static. Yeah. We convert the nature of the method to be what we say it has to be a static method. Now let us explain. Let me explain this simply with a good example. The idea here is when overhead of declaring an object later instantiating it to invoke a function is not justified. If I ask any one of you, like okay, if I ask you a simple question now, yeah, what bike or the vehicle do you own? Yeah, can you tell me what bike or vehicle do you own? Can we execute program without main methods without with using static? No, no, no. See, static is what enables your program to execute. I'll tell you why and how. Okay. And on that note, Sanchit, one good thing you did. I want to tell you there are three rules, right? When it comes to static, there were three rules. What were the three rules? It is loaded when the class is loaded. We got to know that. It has one copy for all instances. This is clear, right? Because the way we implemented the count value, we understood how it is one copy for all. We understood how it is one copy for all. Everyone. Also, we also need to check that it can be accessed directly using the class name. Why? Because it gets loaded when the class is loaded. It is not dependent upon the object to be executed. So for example, if I want to start my counter value, let's say from 1000, what I can do is object counter dot count is equal to 1000. See, this is also what I can do. I can simply start my counter value with what? 1000. And now see, it is like, so even before the object was created, I was able to update my variable with what? Some value to default value to let's say 1000, and then my current count became what? 1001, 1002, 1003. So static variables and methods can directly be accessed using what? Your class name. This is also one of the rules. Are we clear on this part? Are we all clear on this part? Three things. They can be accessed directly using the class name, one copy for all, and they are loaded when the class is loaded. Okay, they are loaded when the class is loaded. So moving ahead again. So static variables, static methods, as we discussed, are what? Static methods are those methods. So when overheads of declaring an object later instantiating it to invoke a function is not justified, we make method static of nature. Now you tell me, what bike or car do you own? What car or bike do you own? If I ask you this question, what would be your answer? Okay, let's try to see that practically. class bike. Then here I have got public string. Let's say I have a function called as what bike. It returns active, and then public void write, and certain lines of code for writing the byte. Now, if I want to call the method of what byte, what will be the process I'll have to follow? If I want to call this function of what byte, what is the process through which I will have to go? I will have to say bike b is equal to new bike, right? Let's say bike b. Then I say b is equal to new bike, and then I ask for name, right? B dot what bike, and then I do system dot out dot println name. Is this correct? This is how it should be, right? If I have write a function, and in that function I have to work along in this way. This is how I'll do it. Yes, no. This is how it will be created. Yes, but what you know what is happening behind the picture? Let's say Rohit, I asked you what bike do you have. Okay, so what you did is rather than telling me I have Activa, you said, okay, you know what, sir, I have bike. Then you go and you take me to your bike. Okay, you take me to the place where your bike was parked. You go there, like we both go there, and then you say, or let's say you have R15. So I ask you now, see, am like we actually looking at your bike right now? At this instance, are we looking at your bike? Yes, no. We do not have any visual of your bike, right now I don't have any visual. I don't see your bike on the screen, or I don't see your camera where your bike is there, right? But still you are able to tell me that you have an R15, correct? So can I ask you one thing? If I want to know the name of if I want to know the name of your bike, do I need to actually have the instance of your bike right now? Right now, do you have the instance of your bike with you? Can you touch feel your bike? No. You might be sitting somewhere in your home, or in your office, or anywhere you are. So what can happen here is you don't have the access to the bike, but there is certain thing in your bike which you can let me know that yes, this is my bike. And yeah, it is basically in your mind, but you don't need the instance of the bike to reply me that you have an R15, or for me to reply that I have an Activa. Making sense? So in such situation, creating an instance just to access this does not make any sense. So in that thing, you know what happens is, now try to understand this. When overheads of declaring an object, later instantiating it to invoke a function is not justified. But on other hand, if I tell you, can you please lend me your bike? I want to go on a ride. So can we now complete this functionality without having the instance of the bike? Can a bike be ridden without having the actual instance of the bike? Yes, no. Everyone, yes, no. Can we ride the bike without actually having the instance of that bike? Is that a possibility? No, right? But that is possible for the name of the bike. So sometime for this it is not justified. So what we can do is we can mark this specific function as what? Of nature static. We can mark this nature of static, and then what will happen? See, even though above thing is possible, the new line of code will actually become is what? This one. String name is equal to bike dot what bike. So I actually don't need the instance of the bike to execute it. Is this making sense? Is this statement making sense that I want to know the name of the bike? I don't need the instance. I can directly call it on the class name. Are we understanding this? Are we all understanding this? Yeah. Let's put this into practical quickly. So here I have got bike.java. So initially what we were doing is we say public string what bike return, let's say R15, and then I have got public void ride of the bike. So here I'll say system.out.println ride of bike. Okay, so these are two functions. Then I create new file. I'll call it as bike runner.java. And here you see first I do bike b. B is equal to new bike. And then I say string name is equal to b dot what bike. And then I do system.out.println bike name plus name. Okay, bike name is plus name. Then what I do is b dot write, because this is required, right? Without an object of bike we cannot write the bike. So I say java c bike runner dot java, java space bike runner, and name of the bike is R15. See, I got it. But for doing that I had to instantiate the object and do all these things. If I make this of nature static, what will happen? I can access this directly using the class name. I don't need to have an overhead of declaring an object and so on. So here I will simply say what string bike name is equal to bike dot what bike. See, only static variables can be called like this. And then here instead of this I say bike name. Now see, this is also possible. We can do this possibility. Yeah. So it says static method what bike from type bike should be accessed in a static way, but that's fine. It's not going to give me error. See, still same output, but this is how it should be work. Yeah. So this is my bike.java. I will put it on the code share. And then we have got bike runner. Are you understanding this scenario, what we are talking about here? I have added the code on bike share. Uh, Sorry, I have added the code on code share. Please check it from there. Don't worry, Rohit. This is something new which requires some time to get properly understood. But obviously, with practice, it will be very much clear. Yeah, let me know once this works. Yeah, is this done? Please let me know. Just a quick question. You are all very much clear upon how to run a Java file right now. Like when you get a Java file, you know how to run it, right? How to compile, how to run. Are we comfortable with that? Okay. So next, let us proceed on this part itself. So this is your bike dot what bike, correct? Now another thing about static. What are the three things about static we should always focus on? First, they are loaded when the class is loaded. There is one copy for all. We have seen the one copy example now, right? With the object counter, and we have also seen that it can be invoked using class name. So there are three rules, right? It's loaded when the class is loaded. It's one copy for all. And what is the last rule? Is it can be invoked using the class name. And now, if you see, we are done with one copy for all. We are done with understanding that it can be invoked using the class name. Now, it is loaded when the class is loaded. For that reason, let us involve our static, non-static things. Okay. So one of the again important rule is a non-static variable cannot be used cannot be used inside static context. What is the rule here? Non-static variable cannot be used inside static context. Now, how does that? What does that mean actually? A non-static variable cannot be used inside the static context. So for that to be understood, let us say we have a class. Yeah. Non-static variables cannot be used inside the static context. So here, let's say I have a class A. Okay, class A have two variables. Int x is equal to 10. Static int y is equal to 20. I have two methods. Public void m1 system.out.println x system.out.println y. Also I have public static void m2, and here I am also having system.out.println x system.out.println y. Okay, now you tell me which thing is of this particular class is of nature static. Quite evident, right? We have got this variable which is of nature static, and then we have got this whole function which is of nature static, which is of nature static. Now if I take the timeline, what will be loaded first, the class or the object? What will be loaded first, the class or the object will be loaded first? Tell me. Anyone? What will be loaded first, the class or the object? Anyone? Obviously the class should be loading first, right? Don't you think so? The class should be the one which will be loaded first. So now you tell me one thing. I have told you, right? The class load happens here. All the static variables and the or anything which is of nature static gets loaded when the class is loaded. So what are two things which will get loaded here at this point? When the class is loaded, what are the two things which will get loaded here? Will the variable x get loaded when I go for when the class is loaded? Will the variable x get loaded when the class is loaded? Or will the variable y get loaded when the class is loaded? When the class loads, can I say yes? Only two things: variable y and method m2. Variable y and method m2 will be loaded. And what will happen when the object is loaded? For example, somewhere here you did a is equal to new a. What will get loaded after this point? What will get loaded after this point when variable a is equal to new a? So can I say variable x and the method m1 will get loaded here? Variable m1 will get loaded here. So this is my static variable loading. This is my instance variable loading, right? Now you tell me, this is obviously, this is because as this is a timeline, as this is a timeline, there is a, so if I try to access, is it possible that I can, before even creating an object, somewhere I will just go and say a dot y and a dot m2? Is this possible? Because they are of nature static, is this two things possible? Are these two things possible for me to do? Because they are of static variable and static functions methods. Can I call these variables using my class name directly? Yes, no, maybe. Can we call this directly using my class name? Yes. We call this directly using my class name. Yes. So when we do this, Yeah, when we do this, can I say now at this point there is one problem. This point, one problem is that when the M2 is being invoked, there is X is not available. Can I say when M2 is invoked, X is not available actually? X is not yet loaded in the memory. Is that a problem? Which will result in an error. That is why they say do not use static content in your like non-static content in your static variables, static functions. Why? Because by the time this is loaded, this line will result in an error now. But on other hand, see, on other hand, when I have the non-static variable and this non-static function, this y will be already available, right? This y will already be available. Yes, no? Because it was loaded way before, right? Like this was loaded way before, so I am able to access the variable y here, which is possible, but not the possibility with x. Why? X is not loaded when the m1 is getting loaded. So that is why non-static variable should not be used inside static context. So this will result in an error, but I want you to check this out. So I'll say a.java, and here I say in x is equal to 10, static int y is equal to 20. Then I've got public void m1 system.out.println x, system.out.println y, and I write another method of m2, which will be of nature what? Static. And see, the moment I do this, I have got an error. Cannot make static reference to non-static field x. Yeah, this is what we were expecting. So I am adding this up in my code shell. This is an error, but something you should have a look at. When you try to compile, it should give you a problem. So I will copy. Till what time lecture is? I have to start with inheritance today. So we'll do the basics of after static. We'll do the basics of inheritance, and then we'll start. If you want, we can take a quick break after this static part is completed, and then we can start. Yes, please try this example. See, you will get an error. Okay, done with this. Now, on that note, let us talk about a very important aspect, that why is main method of nature static? Why main method in Java is static in nature? Okay, so when we have the main method, let's say you have class test, and this is very important. Yes, this is very important. Public static void main string array args. Okay, so when you execute this, how do we execute this? You will somewhere go and type Java space test, correct? You will somewhere go and type Java space test, isn't it? Now, when you do this, what happens behind the picture? Yeah, when you do this, what happens behind the picture? Your Java compiler looks for execution. Yeah, first they check, does this particular class test have a method with signature? What signature? Public static void main string array args. Okay, if found, there are two possibilities, right? There are two possibilities. It will be found or it will be not found. So first possibility, if the method is found, Java compiler will do internally what, what it will do. A function cannot be executed until it is invoked. So it will say what, test dot main, and as we have no arrays, no error, we'll just pass null from here. This is what happens behind the picture. This is what will happen behind the picture. Yeah, so you are not calling the test, you obviously it is getting called, but you tell me, if this main method was not of nature static, will was this call possible? Will this call be possible? If the main method is not of nature static, can I make the call directly to the main method here? No, right? Understanding why? Because this has to be an entry point. So whenever we run the Java program, the compiler is designed in such a way to do what? That check whether the method, there is a function by what name? Public static void main. This is the structure the method should have. This is the structure the method should have. Yeah. And then if the method is found, what it will do? It will say test.main, and we points what? We point it to null. So this is how the ball gets rolling behind the picture. If not found, it throws an error, right? If not found, it throws an exception. It gives you an exception. Are you understanding why a class without the main method does not works? So same way, if I try to, even if I fix this, okay, and now if I try to run this, if I say Java space A, it will give me an error. Main method not found in class A. Please define the main method as public static void main. Getting this? Are we getting this? We want to define this method as public static void main. So this rule is clear. This is a very important interview question. it comes up a lot. And you, I'll do what I have a dedicated video for this. I have added the link to that video, um, where I have covered this properly. I have added the link in the chat window as well. All okay. You can check that out. I have done this video a long time back. It's like 5 years ago, but good video. You can check this out. Same thing. Why is main method of nature static? It helps you out in understanding that. Okay. So you want a break for 5-10 minutes, and then we can continue with inheritance, or should I continue? You want a break for 5-10 minutes, and then we can continue. Okay, Prakash. Others are not responding. Yeah, we can. It's only 1 hour. We can continue, right? So the next part, what we have is we have got the concept of inheritance. So inheritance in Java is basically a process through which object of subchild acquires the state and behavior of its superclass. Now you tell me, you have done inheritance in C++. Have you done inheritance in C++? So what do we used to call it there? Parent and child class, right? Used to normally call it as what? Parent and child class. So here the parent class in Java is called as what? Superclass, whereas the child class is called as what? Subclass. Yeah, the child class is called as what? Subclass. So inheritance is a process through which object of subchild or subclass acquires the state and behavior of its superclass. So this diagram is how you like depict it. We have got superclass, subclass, but remember one thing: the arrow will always go from subclass to superclass. The arrow always travels from subclass to superclass. And then how does inheritance work? So inheritance is basically it make use of keyword extend. So if I want to write a simple inheritance, I have a class parent, I have a class child, I will use the keyword what? Extends, and the child extends the parent. Getting this? Your child will actually extend the parent. So the keyword what we use here is extends, and Java only supports single level inheritance. Yeah, Java only supports single level inheritance. So when inheritance happens, all the data from superclass comes down to the subclass. So when that happens, all the data from subclass will be available. All the data from superclass will be available in my subclass. Java does not support multiple inheritance. That means one child cannot have more than two immediate parent classes. Yeah, it can only have one direct superclass. So there can be only one class name after your extends. Yeah, there can be only one class name after your extends. So at any given point of time, a Java class will only have one direct superclass. Java do support multi-level inheritance. That means your class extends your father extends your grandfather. So that is how it is. This is what we call as multi-level inheritance, correct? And Java does not support cyclic inheritance. That means if B is subclass of A, then A cannot be subclass of B. In simple terms, you cannot be father of your own father, right? You cannot be father of your own father. So this is what we call as cyclic inheritance, which is not allowed in Java. So here, let us simply create one more. I'll close all this, and I will create one more folder here. Let us call it as inheritance. And under inheritance, I write my file. Let's say a.java. Inside my class A, I want to write two methods: public void m1 system.out.println a-m1, public void m2 system.out.println a-m2. Now, PSVM also works. I guess it works. Main method, but I know the extension as main. Whatever works. Like there are different extensions available as well in VS Code. You can bring those in as well. See, now I have got public void m3, which is coming in as what? System.out.println b dash m3, public void m4 system.out.println b dash m4. So I've created this function. Now, are these classes related to each other right now? Are these classes related to each other? Have I connected them through inheritance right now? Have we connected them through inheritance? No, right? Only way we can do it is what I want. I will go here. I will say it extends. Extends is a keyword, and then I say it extends A. Yeah, and I say it extends A. I want to show you how it works then. Now, in my inheritance, I will say irunner dot java. Let's see if PSVM works. Yeah, this also works. So now, see, I create the object of superclass A. A is equal to new A. What are the methods I can access? A dot m1, A dot m2. Okay. Then I do what? System dot out dot println called using. After this, we are whatever we are calling, we are called using object of B. Then what we do? B is equal to new B. Because B has inherited the data from class A, I can do B dot m1, B dot m2, B dot m3, and B dot m4. Okay, B dot m4. And now if I say Java C irunner dot Java Java space irunner. So you can see here before this all the calls were happening using AM2, and now I did AM2, M3, M4. Got this? What I did here? So first I write class A. This is we are doing in inheritance folder. First we write class A dot Java. Then we write class B dot Java, and then we write class I. Can we try these three things quickly? Yeah, this is done. Are we done with this part? Can I get a quick update? Are we done running this practical? Okay. So the next question I have is, if I write a normal class, okay, if I write a normal class, we need to figure out something. Okay, like we have class A with certain methods, then we have got class B which extends A. Then I have class Z. This is going to be a very important discussion. Okay. Now class A, is it a superclass or a subclass? Class A, is it a superclass or a subclass? A is super, right? And B is sub. B is sub. Okay. Now my question is, what about class Z? What about class Z? Is class Z superclass or subclass? Is class Z superclass or subclass? What about Z? It is superclass for which class then, Arya? For example, A was a superclass for B, right? What does Z is superclass for? Is there any subclass of Z right now? Any class which is extending Z? No, right? Are you understanding where we are standing at right now? Like in this situation, there was a superclass, there is was subclass. Okay, Hari says it's a normal class until inherited. Now there is one scenario here. In Java, there is no concept of normal class. Yeah. So every class in Java is a subclass. Okay, every class in Java is subclass. Now, on that note, I want to do a discussion. Yeah, a small discussion I want to do. What does the discussion is? Yeah, what is that discussion all about? See, how many theories of evolution do we have? Human evolution theory. How many do we have? How many human theory, like evolution of humans, right? How many theories do we have? One theory is about, like what we have is the Darwin's theory, right? That we got evolved from monkeys. And then the other theory, which is available in a lot of religious scripture, is what we are childs of Adam and Eve. Correct? So now, just for sake of this discussion, because that is how Java is structured, I will take the discussion that we are evolved from Adam. We are the subclasses of Adam and Eve. So you tell me, any person, if I start tracking their lineage back, if I start tracking their lineage, so for example, you, your father, your grandfather, great grandfather, where will this lineage go and end? If I believe in the theory of Adam, where will this theory go and end? Like, where will my lineage end then? What is going to be the starting part of my lineage then? Anyone? Are you understanding what I'm trying to explain you here? I have got two theories of evolution, right? One is about the Darwin's theory, and one is one which we follow along a lot, like about the Adam and Eve theory. Now, you tell me one thing, that if I believe in Adam and Eve theory, so if we start tracking our lineage back, my father, grandfather, great grandfather, it will go and meet. Can I say it will end at Adam? Will it go and end at Adam? Everyone's. Same way, in Java, you know what happens? In Java, there is a class called as, in java.lang package, there is a class called as java.lang.object. Every class is subclass of java.lang.object. So see, Z is also the subclass of java.lang.object. A is subclass, B is subclass. So Z is not the superclass, Z is the subclass for here. Z is subclass for java.lang.object. Every class in Java will at least and at most have one superclass, and that one superclass is what? Java.lang.object, right? So Z is here in this situation. Z is what? If you're not extending with anything, your class Z is already extending what? Java.lang.object. Are we getting this? Class Z is subclass of java.lang.object. So how do we prove this? Let me show you this simple example. So let's say I have a parent.java file, and we have got a child.java file. So in my parent.java, I simply write my class parent. I'll leave it blank for now. I'll go to my child class, child extends parent. Okay, and here I do what? Nothing. I want to leave it blank. This one also I want to leave it blank. So for that, I have one small thing to take care. Just give me a minute. Just need 1 minute. I have one piece of code which I want to show you. Okay, so now I create one more class here. Let's call it as irunner2.java, and here I write my main method. Inside my main method, I want object of C parent and child. So I'll say parent p is equal to new parent child. Both of them are blank classes right now, but wanted to show you something. So new child. How to find out who is my superclass? So here if I say system.out.println super classes. So there is a class by name class in Java. If I say class C1 is equal to child dot get class, and then if I do system.out.println parent class or super class for child is, here I say C1 dot, this is how we get the class access. So I'll say get super class dot get name. It will give me the name of my super class. Okay. So now if I try to compile Java C irunner2.java Java space irunner2. So see, super class for child is what? Parent. Super class for child is what? Parent. And now if I check the same thing for my parent class. So if I say C2 dot get class, and super class for parent is what? C2 dot get super class dot get name. See, super class for parent is yeah, there has to be parent dot subclass, right? I didn't change the reference. See, so super class for parent is what? Java dot lang dot object. Pick up any class, any single class you pick up. For example, even here, I go to iRunner and I say, how about B? B is subclass, right? A is subclass. So I say A dot get class. And if I try to run for iRunner, it says super class for parent, which is nothing but A, is what? Java dot lang dot object. Are you understanding how it works? Every class is subclass of what? Java dot lang dot object. And for that part, I also had another video, which was, I have created a video called as java.lang.object is Adam of Java. It's a very interesting video. You can check that out. It will help you out a bit as well in your execution. So yes, are we clear on this, everyone? Okay. So on that note, what I want to do is quickly. So that's what I wanted to cover today, just to show you where we are right now. Mm, As per the content, we are done with Unit 1. We are done with Unit 2. We are in Unit 3 right now. Okay. We are in Unit 3. We have started with inheritance. Static keywords are done. Static members are done. So super and other parts. So next session, we will also start with the array and the wrapper classes. We'll complete the method overloading and we'll start with the other parts. So this is what we have been completing right now. We are at the end of the Unit 3. Mostly by the next session, we'll be done with Unit 4. And as per the practical, are you comfortable with this ones now, right? 1 and 2. So one is already released. Two practical 2 series will be released at 3 p.m. today. Yeah, so you can find it on my channel. It will be released on today, and mostly tomorrow you will have 3 and 4 as well. So sir have asked you to please start making your journals. Is that fine for you to make your journals? Like, because you have the code and everything, so you can start working on that. Okay. Now for your attendance purpose, can you please join Google Meet? I will share a link with you. Please, I'm adding the link in the I am adding the link in the chat window for YouTube. Please, can you just join this? Okay, any more remaining joining in the Google Meet? Any more remaining in joining in Google Meet? Okay, so I am tracking the attendance now. Is there anyone remaining in the YouTube live who wanted to join in Meet? Okay, so I am again tracking the attendance. That's it. So I have got the attendance. I'll mail it to Arun sir. Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you everyone. So we'll update about the next session to you all in the WhatsApp group. Thank you.